Hey everyone, I am the Whiteboard and welcome to this breakdown investigation. I want you to transport yourself for a second to the pre-dawn quiet of the Stade de la Mino in early 2026. Picture the blue hour just before match day, with the cathedral spires of Strasbourg rising up through the morning mist. The stadium sits there, vast, empty, and totally silent. But on the first Saturday of February 2026, something happened on that pitch that had literally never happened before. Not just in France, but anywhere in the recorded history of top-flight European football. We're going to dive deep into this today because what went down that day set the stage for one of the most fascinating tactical and corporate experiments in the modern game. 2000. On that specific February day, Racing Club de Strasbourg Alsace fielded a starting 11 where every single player had been born after the year 2000. Think about that. 11 players, 0 born before the millennium. That made it the absolute youngest starting 11 in the history of any top 5 European league, ever. That fact alone tells you a ton about the direction the club was heading. But the story of how they would eventually manage this historic, crazy collection of youth, well, that's where things get genuinely complicated. Now, it is absolutely crucial that we get the timeline straight here. It was actually the English manager, Gary O'Neill, who fielded this historically young, record-breaking squad back in February 2026. And O'Neill? He had done his job exceptionally well, guiding Strasbourg to an 8th-place League One finish and a UEFA Conference League semi-final. But as the summer of 2026 rolled around, Ipswich Town came calling for O'Neill. And honestly, even beyond his departure, the club's ownership realized a fundamental change was going to be necessary anyway. The landscape of football had shifted, and the club's ultimate vision required a total reset. This side-by-side really perfectly illustrates the tactical friction they were dealing with. Gary O'Neill's version of Strasbourg was organized, disciplined, cautious. It was this reactive mid-block that waited for moments rather than forcing them to happen. And look, it wasn't wrong, it was just safe. But that totally clashed with the strict philosophy demanded by Strasbourg's ownership group, BlueCo, which, if you didn't know, is the exact same consortium that controls Chelsea. They mandate a proactive, possession-dominant, high-pressing style across their entire network of clubs. Under O'Neill, that specific footballing language had kind of gone quiet, so they needed a new head coach in July 2026 to loudly restore it. So what did the BlueCo executives do? They get on a plane to Portugal, and they make a decision that legitimately shocked the football world. They paid a €2 million release clause to hire a 47-year-old man named Hugo Oliveira. But there's one statistic that makes this decision seem absolutely absurd. 56. When Strasbourg handed him the keys to this historic, incredibly valuable young squad, his total professional head coaching experience amounted to just 56 matches. Not 56 seasons, guys. 56 matches. So the multi-million-dollar question is, why him? To figure that out, we actually have to map out a 22-year shadow career. Oliveira grew up completely immersed in Portuguese football culture, but he never actually played professionally. Instead, in 2002, at just 23 years old, he started coaching goalkeepers in the regional lower leagues for basically no money. By 2011, he had worked his way up to running the goalkeeper program at Benfica. By 2017, he's an assistant in the English Premier League. And finally, in December 2024, he lands his very first head coaching gig at Famalicão, right before Strasbourg called in July 2026. He quietly and meticulously built his expertise completely away from the spotlight. And what's super interesting is how Oliveira completely revolutionized his specific niche during those years at Benfica. I mean, he coached Jan Oblak and Ederson Moraes, two of the most decorated goalkeepers in modern football history. But Oliveira didn't just want them hanging back to save shots. He wanted the keeper to actively step up into the defensive line during build-up play. Think about the math on that. Suddenly an opponent's 2-man press is staring down 3 defenders. A 2 versus 2 becomes a 3 versus 2 advantage. He essentially turned a passive safety net into a proactive architect of the entire attack. But his expertise totally didn't stop at the 6-yard box. 265. That is the hidden depth of his resume. Oliveira spent 8 years acting as Marco Silva's assistant across 4 different English clubs, racking up 265 competitive matches in the Premier League. From Silva, Oliveira absorbed the deep, complex architecture of a modern football team. He learned exactly how a double pivot holds structure, how a 4-2-3-1 morphs fluidly when you have possession, and maybe most importantly, he learned how to manage a highly complex dressing room at the absolute highest level of the sport. All of this perfectly culminated in his ultimate proving ground in December 2024. Famalicão, a mid-table Portuguese club, dropped him right into the middle of their season. He had absolutely zero preseason to lay foundations, and yet He installed this highly proactive, incredibly complex pressing system totally on the fly. The documented results were staggering. By May 2026, Famalicão finished 5th, which was their highest league position in modern history. Across those 56 matches, he averaged 1.54 points per game and even secured historic draws against Champions League regulars like Benfica and FC Porto. All right, let's move into part 1, the 4 modern pillars. Let's get to the analytical core of this explainer. When BlueCo executives were scouting Famalicão, they definitely weren't just looking at the scoreboard. Strasbourg had considered a bunch of other high-profile options, but their data-driven recruitment model identified Oliveira based on 4 incredibly strict criteria: tactical restoration, deliberate development, direct language, and structural fit. He just happened to fit every single dimension simultaneously. Let's break those down. For pillars 1 and 2, BlueCo desperately needed a coach who could install expansive, possession-dominant tactics, while at the same time shaping raw youth into highly valuable assets. Oliveira's Famalicão was practically a direct translation of BlueCo's tactical philosophy. And on the development side, just look at Gustavo Sá. Before Oliveira showed up, Sá was a promising name, sure, but under Oliveira, he rocked up 13 goal contributions, averaged 7.2 ground duels won per 90 minutes, and became one of the absolute highest-rated young attacking midfielders playing outside of Portugal's traditional top clubs. That is methodical, deliberate development. Pillar 3 is all about communication. Hugo Oliveira conducted his inaugural press conference at Strasbourg entirely in French, not his native Portuguese, and not awkwardly through a translator. He had literally studied specifically for this role. In a super young, fast-paced, international dressing room, eliminating the friction of translation is a massive operational advantage. Every single tactical instruction given directly on the training pitch becomes a genuine moment of connection rather than a frustrating delay. And that brings us to the 4th, and honestly, perhaps the most revealing pillar, structural fit. See, BlueCo doesn't want a traditional manager, like an Alex Ferguson, who expects to control transfers, the grand vision, and the entire institution. They strictly want a modern head coach. They want someone who thrives as just one node within a much larger corporate network. Oliveira is a guy who focuses solely on the training pitch and the tactical system, completely comfortable leaving the recruitment and the long-term planning to the sporting directors sitting above him. Which leads us to part 2, corporate model versus culture. Okay, we have to pivot this investigation to face some uncomfortable truths and inherent risks here. Because while the data totally supports the hire, Strasbourg is a real football club with a deep history, not just a spreadsheet model. First, we've got to address the statistical reality. Do 56 matches actually prove anything? In the world of football analytics, that sample size is incredibly narrow and genuinely susceptible to variance. A favorable run of fixtures or a few last-minute lucky goals can heavily distort the data. And remember, Strasbourg just reached a European semi-final under O'Neill. The gap between where Oliveira has been and the massive expectations he's being asked to meet right now is very real. Make no mistake, this hire is a genuine analytical gamble. Furthermore, the timeline perfectly illustrates the ruthless rhythm of multi-club ownership. Since BlueCo acquired the club back in 2023, Hugo Oliveira is their 4th permanent head coach in roughly 4 years. This is clearly not a patient, let's build a culture over a decade mentality. It is rapid installation, rapid evaluation, and incredibly swift removal. If Oliveira's system underperforms early on, the corporate structure won't hesitate for a second to replace him. He has very, very limited protection. Which naturally leads to the most painful question of all, and one that totally validates the existential dread of the Strasbourg supporters. Who is this club actually for? When you're fielding a starting 11 of players entirely born after the year 2000, are they local heroes, or are they just a portfolio of appreciating assets on a collective corporate balance sheet? The fans have every right to fear that their historic club is simply being repurposed as a stepping stone development academy for Chelsea. Oliveira certainly didn't create this structural tension, but he is undeniably the face of it now. Let's shift gears for part 3, the person behind the model. Before we let the human completely disappear behind corporate balance sheets and cold data, we need to shift the focus back to the actual person, because the data only ever tells half the story. People who have actually worked with Oliveira describe immense emotional intelligence. Take Bernd Leno, for instance, the German goalkeeper at Fulham. He noted Oliveira's exhaustive, meticulous research on penalty takers. But Leno said that in the actual high-pressure moment of the penalty, Oliveira told him to stop thinking about the data and just trust his instincts. It is exhaustive preparation meeting total human trust. Or take a young defender like Ibrahim Ba, who literally had the option to join a massive club like Benfica, but chose Strasbourg specifically because Oliveira made him feel seen, creating this fast-track environment for his personal growth. And finally, part 4, living rather than surviving. As we begin to wrap this up, we need to zoom out because this single hire at Strasbourg represents a fundamental shift that is happening across the entire sport. The future of elite football management might no longer belong to the charismatic celebrities with massive egos who demand total, absolute control. Instead, it might actually belong to the quiet, highly specialized technicians patiently building complex systems in the shadows. We're talking about men who spend 2 decades becoming extraordinarily good at developing players on a training pitch, just waiting for a data model to finally notice them. Ultimately, time is the only thing that will tell if this multi-club experiment and a guy with just 56 matches of head coaching experience can translate to sustained success at the European level. But you have to admit, it is an incredibly bold, modern way to play the game. When asked about his fearless tactical approach against the absolute giants of Portuguese football, Oliveira summarized his entire philosophy perfectly. He said, "I prefer to live than survive." It leaves us with one massive question to chew on. Is quiet specialization the new king of world football? I've been the Whiteboard. Thank you so much for joining this investigation.